All team, give it everything you got!
It's time to fangirl flail with Fangirls Going Rogue.
Count me in. I don't think there's anything more important in the Star Wars universe than the fans.
News, discussion, and commentary from the female point of view.
You call this a diplomatic solution?
No, I call it aggressive negotiations.
With your hosts, Teresa Delgado, Trisha Barr, and Sarah Woloski.
Boy, am I glad to hear your voice.
Strap in, because this is where the fun begins.
I like the sound of that.
Welcome, Yub Cubs, to Fangirls Going Rogue. We are excited to present another fun episode talking about something really cool. But before we do that, welcome everyone. My name is Sarah Woloski from Skywalking Through Neverland. I am your host, and with me today is Trisha Barr, my co-host, and she is from Fangirl Blog. And Trisha, are you ready to talk some Galactic Starcruiser?
You know, I saw somebody say that you go through like the withdrawal, that post-con withdrawal after the Starcruiser, and I'd say we're sort of in that, right? We want to kind of reminisce a little bit.
Definitely. I think so. And just by the bare fact that we are covering it and it took so much video and stuff, we get to kind of relive that experience over again as we are covering it and sharing articles and doing videos and things. So yeah, so while we were doing a video, well, specifically, let's talk about on the Starcruiser itself, we podcasted each night of the Starcruiser. And I believe that was when you talked about the story beats, right?
Yeah, very much so. I was picking them up. They felt pretty obvious to me. The end of day one was the end of act one. And then we were going to go on our adventure. There were 2 more acts in the second day. So yeah, we started sort of picking that up as people that talk about Star Wars storytelling all the time.
Yeah. And so like between that and the fact when I was editing the Gaia video and I added all the lyrics as captions, and when I was doing that, you know, I noticed there's so much story buried in the Gaia dinner show that we have on the very first night of the cruise. And it's a 42-minute show. It's packed with storytelling. It's packed with gorgeous music, really fun beats, right? And so I think between your storytelling knowledge and me doing that video, we decided that we needed to do this episode of Fangirls Going Rogue, which is all about theater in the Galactic Starcruiser.
Yeah, I mean, it's been described as a dinner theater in the round with a role-playing game element, murder mystery. There's not a murder so much as there's a mystery you have to solve, like who, and
several
actually,
of them.
Yeah, part of the theater experience is sort of revealing who some of the characters are, or maybe their alliances, or maybe how they are within their own organization or faction. So you get to kind of learn some things about some of the characters. And I think for the most part, we're going to really talk about the Gaia performance because I think that just lends it to it. But in this time that we've been talking and just amongst ourselves and doing some interviews, they had a presentation at the Game Developers Conference with Anisha Deshman and Sarah Thatcher, who worked on this experience particularly. And it was really cool to see them lay out the things that we sort of picked up on our own watching this, you know, that they had the acts, that we were right on with the acts, that there were all these different ways that you could sort of embed into these stories. You know, there's a little romance involved in that. And they tell us specifically that that's there for people who maybe are more casual Star Wars fans. And then there's the actual galactic intrigue that happens. So there's all these different ways that you can learn about what's going on. So if you're a storytelling person, there's a lot here. And maybe we should just speak about spoilers before we go on, just what we're going to be doing spoilerized.
Right. Well, we are going to be talking about the story of the Starcruiser. So if you don't want to know any of the story of what you're getting into, maybe the different factions, the different storylines you could possibly follow, then please stop listening now. Maybe go watch our spoiler-free opening video on Fangirls Going Rogue YouTube, which is just a very glossy overview of what we did. But yeah, so yeah, here's your spoiler alert. Spoiler alert. Spoiler alert.
One of the cool things though is even if you've been on it or you've never been on it, some people like, I think I would be looking and want to know some stuff because I feel like there's many different ways the show could go. And I feel like this is kind of more like, back in the day when Hamilton was out and none of us had seen it, there was a select few people who'd seen Hamilton, but we all knew the music. We're going to kind of explore Gaia and how her music, you could listen to it and be informed kind of like of the vibe of the show and not really know the experience. And
definitely.
One of the things I thought was really interesting was that I got to talk to Alex Lee, the production manager from Disney Live Entertainment, who's been working on this experience for 6 years. And I want to just let him talk about how they use the word bespoke entertainment.
We were really inspired by where a lot of live entertainment is going in the industry with bespoke entertainment and immersive entertainment. So we really set out to create this 2-day experience with an eye towards how people were doing individual and unique and multifaceted storylines. We were really interested in bringing in diverse story plots, diverse casting, and being able to tell one story in many unique voices and many different ways for both a casual audience member and for a hardcore player.
So anyway, it's just really interesting that this can be catered to be a unique experience. So we hear that word bespoke a lot now. So that means more like custom designed or catered to you. So if you like the First Order, you could have more of this like dark side experience and be getting the rebels. And if you want to be resistance or a scoundrel, the story really could go that way for you, but we'll all end up having the same adventure at the end. It starts and ends the same way, no matter which way you go into it. So that word bespoke, that would be like if you do your custom cabinets. I'm doing a kitchen rehaul right now. So, but bespoke would be if you get a piece of cabinetry that's very custom made, that you don't just go get it out of a box, that it's made specifically for you, tailored to your needs and wants, what you would like to see out of something. So that's a really interesting word to see. It's, when you go to a movie, it is what it is. It's not catering to you as much. You might go to a movie because you like Marvel or whatever, but the story won't evolve based on how you want to interact with it.
That makes sense. And I want to come back to this amazing talk that Anisha Deshman and Sarah Thatcher did at the Game Developers Conference, because they showed some PowerPoints. And in these PowerPoints, I know like a bunch of us who have been on the Starcruiser are like, okay, there's all these different paths you can take. What are these paths? Well, in this PowerPoint, it tells you what paths there are. There are 6 paths that they show here. And so let's list them off. We've got Resistance and First Order. We've got the rom-com. That is so funny. We have the Smuggler path. We have the Heist path, which you would assume that the Smuggler and the Heist would be the same, but no, those are different. And then you have the Force path. So thinking about the paths that we took, I feel like I was on a Resistance path, and I know you were too, right?
I was Resistance and maybe a little scoundrelly in there.
Okay.
I know you kept running across Sammy.
Yes.
And you had a real affinity for Sammy when we talked about it. And I kept ending up with Wraith Cole.
Okay.
So, and he was the Gaia's manager, but he also had some resistance leaning towards him too. So I think kind of some of those stories, the Force one is going to sort of overlap with the resisting. The Smuggler one made too, because Hondo is involved in that if you go to Batu. And I think we all experienced the coaxium coming back. Did you have coaxium on your shuttle, your transport, when you went back to the ship from Batu?
We had data tapes, not coaxium.
Oh,
Yeah.
see?
Even though I think, well, they're all in the same package. So like,
it depends on what they tell you.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think there could be either a holocron or you had coaxium. We had data tapes. So yeah, there could be several different things within that package.
Yeah.
So cool.
I didn't get any of the Force side, and I wish I kind of would have, but that's also a reason to potentially go back to experience. Some of the questions you get asked on the data pad give you an option to be more like, I'm really one with the Force, or more like, I just want to go with the flow. And I think based on how you answer those questions, you're going to kind of track into one or the other. So I got to figure out those answers to get me into the Force one.
Right. Yeah, that would be fun. Either that or First Order just sounds really fun too, just to be totally different. I don't know. But
and I really didn't see any people doing the First Order stuff until I watched your video of the Gaia show. And I noticed that Croy went over and shook somebody's hand, and they were the person who turned in Chewbacca.
Oh, there you go. See, I feel like if you were First Order, you'd probably have more to do, or a little more one-on-one with the guy, because not as many people are going to be doing that.
Yeah, he named in the final kind of show, he named some people that had, helped him. Yeah. Also on that PowerPoint, they had the narrative structure, which sort of shows all the different ways all these 6 types end up. And they sort of break down the story into the beats that there are. And then we're going to tell you which ones are really the theater oriented ones. So you have your arrival, which is when everybody just shows up. You have the muster, which is really your first kind of theater stuff. You have acting, and that's just setting up everything that's going to happen in the story.
And who the characters are too.
Right. The captain, Wraith, Gaia, Croy, who's the lieutenant from the First Order, the droid. Now, why can't I remember his name?
Oh,
the droid.
Yeah, I'm bad with droid names.
Sammy, who's the engineer. And then the dinner, the first night, is your big program with Gaia. And that's where we're going to really kind of dive into to break that down. And then you end up with more of the program, which as you leave dinner, more things are happening and you can really start to participate. And then the planet visit is your beginning of Act 2 and really is your Act 2. So everybody can do something. You could be finding coaxium, you could be finding holocron, or doing whatever, hacking, scanning, whatever on Batu. When people say, oh, I'm going to go and I'm going to do the lightsaber and I'm going to do this and do that on Batu. Wow, there's so many things that are just unique to this experience that it seems like there's so many things you could do. And there's stuff happening on the ship as well during this activity. And then you go back to program in the afternoon of the second day. You go back to dinner, which is another theatrical experience. And then you have your final program. So really I think there's really functionally 4 main theatrical events that happen. It's the muster, the dinner theater, the first night with Gaia. Then you have your dinner the second night, and then you have your final act. The Galactic States. Those are your big theater things. There's little kind of more, those other programs are more what you would call kind of, one-on-one things or little group things, improvisational, that end up happening.
Definitely. All right, so I want to talk about this narrative structure PowerPoint that you have here, because you're talking about they show the beats of it, but they also show along this chart is the different locations on the ship. So I think it's cool how they have charted out, depending on what path you're on, you get to visit all the different locations in the ship itself, because they have they have basically formed it that way. So like you're not going to be always on the bridge if you're following the smuggler path, say. They'll make sure to break it up so you're in the engineering room for one of the programs or you're in the lounge for something. So I think that's a really neat way of structuring this and making sure that each guest has an experience that really encompasses the whole thing.
What was the name of the room that was outside?
That would be the
climate
simulator.
That's what it was. Climate simulator. So you could see what the weather was like. Yes, a lot of the force stuff ended up being out there, which made sense because there were plants and all that kind of stuff.
Oh.
And there was also the cargo hold, which was locked up until the second day. You couldn't really get in there, but they were all structured right around the dining room. So as you went into dinner and went out of dinner, you got to do stuff. And then I would say definitely the sublight lounges where things are happening that you just don't know are happening until they're happening.
Yeah. Chewie will run in there, a little kid. Even in the Chandrila Starline, the gift shop, there's a couple things that happened in there. You know, Lieutenant Croy ended up in there telling the kid that he was going to give a kid a number because they wouldn't give him his name. You know, things like that. So the characters just walk in and out. Maybe Croy wanted a new jacket. Who knows?
I have to say that I'm, not a dark side person, but the guy who played Croy just killed it. And his ability to just sort of wing it. I remember one kid wanted to like run up and do something and he was like, hold it. Like to get the kid, because the kids want to get involved in it and they have to like keep them from getting too involved in it because you don't want them like up in their little acting areas. So like for the muster, that was this event that it's typical on a cruise, and this is how they're setting up the thing. You come on a cruise ship and everybody gets together and they show you how to put your life vests on in case you have to abandon ship. In this case, they just sort of had us all gather in case of an emergency. And then the theater event sort of unfolded with the captain. But it was interesting how that ended up setting up what happened at the end of the show when we had the big finale with Kylo and Rey doing their big battle.
Right. So should we get into... Well, we got into the muster a little bit. So after that, we have the Gaia dinner show, which you had mentioned is like musical theater, correct?
Definitely. It has these beats and things that are very familiar to anybody who's gone to musical theater or participate in it or just experience it. There's a way. And I'd say even if you've watched like animated movies that like The Little Mermaid or The Lion King, they have those same kind of beats in them. Frozen.
Right. So when you spoke with, I know you really picked up on this whole musical theatrics when you were on the Galactic Starcruiser. So you had the opportunity to ask questions. You had the opportunity to talk with Alex Lee about this. And I'm really glad you did because, I was filming the whole thing. And when you're filming, you're kind of in a different zone than if you're experiencing it, So it wasn't until I was editing this that I really experienced this dinner show. So you just picked up on so many things. So let's hear what Alex Lee says about Gaia.
I'm so thrilled that you picked up on that. One of the things that we really wanted to achieve was to tell underrepresented stories, not only in the Star Wars universe, but to provide opportunities for all types of performance. So in the Star Wars canon, the Twi'leks are usually represented or misrepresented, usually subjected. And we were so thrilled to approach this character with true empowerment in ways that haven't been done before. And I think, to your point, you hear that in the lyrics and her storytelling and the person and the people that you're seeing in that story and how it's being conveyed. We were so thrilled to create a role and a musical set with all black female composers, writers, and book writers, as well as lyricists, and Judith Hill, who actually did Ula Shuka for Galaxy's Edge, came back to do all of this work. So this was all informed from a very unique perspective for the Twi'leks that we were so glad to do. And I'm very glad that came across.
I really just love that. I don't know. We talk so much about representation and all these different ways that we would like to experience Star Wars. And they were right in there. They're like, this is how we're representing. We had diverse people writing the show,
Right.
3 Black women writing the show. And even the what do you call him? The cruise director on our version was a Black woman. I felt like when I came out of the experience, I said, if people don't realize that the Black women run the world, and that, that they get things done and make things happen, because the cruise director, she was like, on it. And Gaia was played by a Black woman, and, and Black women wrote her story. That was for the one we experienced. And it was just really amazing how especially we've been Star Wars fans for a long time, and our first Twi'lek experiences are mostly, Ula.
Yes.
From
Return of the Jedi.
Yeah, getting dropped,
dancing
in the pit,
around. Yep.
Jabba's entertainment, and probably devoured by the Rancor. So, just to hear that they were there to kind of give a different experience was really exciting.
And a different perspective as well. And I think it really shows too. I mean, hearing that quote and then listening to some of these lyrics and even the interstitials in between, the recitative, if you will, right? In between songs, it really, you can absolutely tell that it was written by 3 Black women.
Well, I think in order to kind of intro people and to remind people maybe who've been on the show and how Gaia was introduced, I'd love to play Wraith's introduction of Gaia before she even sings.
I am Wraith Cole. It is my pleasure and privilege to introduce you to someone who is, in every sense of the word, a star. A songwriter who not only writes music, but writes from her soul. No matter how many times I stand on a stage that she is about to electrify, it somehow feels like the first time. She's filled concert halls. She's filled stadiums. And tonight, believe me, she will fill this room. Travelers, friends, Gaia.
Which is beautiful and extravagant how he introduces her.
Oh, yes.
It's so wonderful.
I think everyone has a crush on Gaia, right?
And we should, let's talk about it. People, when they first saw Gaia, they were in that Disney promo, and it looked like she was like a lounge singer in a little lounge. People were kind of underwhelmed. But when you get in the room and she's singing, and especially, I feel like Star Wars and theater aren't that far apart. There's a lot of similarities. So we get this like opening number after that introduction, New World, which is introducing us to the kind of the story. We've had the muster, but that's more setting kind of the tone of the ship and how things are going to move and who the characters are. And New World sort of introduces kind of the galactic stakes that we're gonna be part of, and it reminds me of those big opening numbers of stories, like the big opening number at the beginning of Phantom of the Opera, where you're just you're introduced into the world of the opera and how it's going, and this is introducing us to the world of the Resistance.
Absolutely. And what I love, it starts with the refrain, change is coming, something new is in the air. Hear the call to the tribes of many different distant places. Look around at the beautiful collage of faces. she's talking about us, but she's also talking about the representation too, I feel.
Absolutely. And, one of the things that just having been, this person's been part of talking about representation and the voices of women, there's this one place that over all of time that women seem to have the power to say what they want to talk about things, and that's pop singers. Young women pop singers, middle-aged women pop singers, even older women who are singing and still there. But I think of Taylor Swift, and you think of the power and the thing that she's stood up against in her career already. You think of Aretha Franklin, Madonna, who's, Madonna's like breaking all the rules back when I was in high school and college. Like, she was talking about things that, young women shouldn't talk about. Beyonce. Well,
Aretha Franklin literally sings about respect.
Exactly. Queen Latifah. So all these women who, like Kelly Clarkson, who has her own, all these women who've talked about their experiences and made the story of women. I mean, it's just these little nuggets. Pop songs are just little nuggets, right? They're little bits, but they're ways that women have been able to express themselves and their stories. So it seems really cool that that's the way they chose in their story to give this person the voice of what's happening in the galaxy. She's a pop singer. They call her a diva at one point, so when you say diva, you think of like Beyonce, Celine Dion, you think of these like women who have these powerful voices and just speak to their experience. And that's what makes them popular singers, because they're speaking to their experience and we can relate to it.
I agree. And I feel like it's really cool how this is one example of how Gaia's look really goes with her whole show as well, because some of the lyrics here for the chorus is "come and fly," and she literally has wings on her outfit. Like she's got this capelet thing, but when she lifts up her arms, it looks like wings. So she's like flying around the room singing this amazing song.
So while this was happening, not only are we getting her singing, we're still getting a little bit of the tension or drama unfolding on the ship, which is that Croy and the First Order have now boarded the ship and they're looking for somebody. And so I always thought, I thought they were a little flirty. Was she flirting with him, or was she
Croy and Gaia?
Croy and Gaia. Or was she using the fact that maybe he had a crush on her as a pop star? I was trying to figure out how that dynamic was going. Like,
I feel like definitely she was using him. Like, she knew the power she had over him and was using it to her full extent because she could.
That's kind of how I read it too. But, of course, for this night of the dinner, you and I were on different ends of the room too, which is another thing to talk about. Not only is this a musical number happening, she's moving all over everywhere. So in your video, you were able to get what's happening in the front of the room and what's happening in the back of the room. And just don't worry, you guys, if you go on and you're on one side of the room, the next night you'll be at the front of the show. So, but she moves everywhere. So and there are things happening everywhere that I didn't even realize some things when I watched the video that you guys saw, that as opposed to what I saw happening.
Right. Me same. Like, I didn't see Chewie until he was like right in the front of the room after he had been captured. Like, I never saw any of that. And he was right by your table earlier.
Yes. And that was like, so if you aren't in the front, you may be experiencing something really cool in the back. So don't worry about it. Like, don't worry about it. It's not like, at the convention when you're back of the room, you think, I'm not going to see anything. So we went from New World, then we go to My Name is Gaia, which is a bop. I would say that's how I'm going to describe it. Like, she says,
on my travels throughout the galaxy, I became a star because I was unafraid to proclaim my wants and desires. To write songs that call out to my people, to name my truth. Everybody, what is my name? And don't you forget it.
Yes.
I love that. I love that she's just like telling you what the song is. And then the song like is that, right? It's her just saying, you guys need to say my name. Like my name will not be forgotten.
Well, the song is her journey. The song is her journey. She tells how she was in the underworld. She was living, selling the gems, selling blue gemstones. And I climbed up till I reached the top. And so she left that world behind and became a star, clawed her way up, basically. And then, so now she's up and she makes us chant Gaia, Gaia. Take me up into outer space. It's so cute. It's so fun. Yeah. But I just love and this is something I didn't get on the day, once again, because we were filming, but like all this interplay between the characters in between the songs really has your story. And if you're an opera geek, like recitative is what they call the stuff in between the arias, which is your main songs. And so that's what I call this, like this is your recitative tells a lot of stories. And if you go to Hamilton too, his recitative is in the form of, what is that called? Rapping. It's like rapping. Mm-hmm. It's all music there. So this is just a different way of doing that. I think it's really cool. I love it.
And we learn a little bit about the Ryloth stone too here, which is part of the adventure. So, and I think you have a little bit better handle on that than me, because that was something that was less in my kind of awareness.
Okay. Yeah. So we get into Gaia. We know that Gaia is a big star now. And now we're going to get into more storytelling here within this dinner show. And so in between My Name is Gaia and the next song, which is called Hyena Na Naye. And it's hard to say because this is the name of the Ryloth stone. And here she is talking about what the Ryloth stone is and laying out a storyline that perhaps you could experience on the Starcruiser.
There is a Ryloth stone. It brought harmony to my planet. It has been perhaps lost, perhaps stolen, and with it something of who we are. Now that is something that I just cannot stand for. I have been searching for it, and I know now that it is close. And when I find it, I will bring it back home. Home to Ryloth, home to my people. Hiya, 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 na 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 na.
I think that's really cool. So if you didn't know you could experience this like Ryloth stone thing, I mean, sometimes you don't even realize that everything in this dinner show that's happening is giving you clues of things that you might experience on there. So there's definitely things that you might not experience the first time, but if you went back and you could listen and pay attention and maybe play on those clues. But so the whole The Ryloth stone sort of reminds me of, it means something. It reminds me of the Calicori.
Yeah.
How they talk about, something that's really important. And that was from Star Wars Rebels for Hera. That was a family heirloom. The Ryloth stone sounds like it's more of a representation of the people.
Right. Definitely. And like, I never experienced this on the cruise, this storyline, but apparently one of the storylines is, I think one of the things you smuggle back from Batuu is the Ryloth stone, and you actually get this stone. And we did not experience this, but Mike Celestino from Laughing Place was part of the heist storyline, which involves the Hayanananaye. And he said it was a big part of his day 2 story, and he's going to be releasing videos. In fact, he's already started on the Laughing Place YouTube. So make sure to head there as in the next month or so, and you'll probably see that heist storyline, which is exciting. And I do want to call out that, like, Richard and I were sitting next to an Imagineer on our plane ride home. He was very talkative and talked a lot about some of the storylines that you could experience, including this one about the Ryloth stone. So I was like blown away that they made a song that then ties into a storyline that you could actually be a part of and see this like Ryloth gemstone. And that's like part of my driving factor of like, I want to go back. I want to experience all these cool storylines.
Now we're all torn. Do we want to do the stone or do we want to do the force? The interesting thing I see you're noting here is their talk of the gem being sentient.
Yes. Yeah. So the lyrics to this song, if you listen to them, and we'll play a little bit here for you, but she's saying that she was calling to me. She was doing this. And if you really listen, you realize she's talking about the gemstone itself.
She stands there dazzling in all her glory. A cage spectacle so beautiful, a tragic story. She comes from mystic stones and ancient temples, but she was stolen from a sacred land. She's the chosen one, a golden sovereign shimmering bride. I can hear her singing out to me. She's the fortune of 1,000 tribes.
To me, that's so cool, but it also kind of makes me think of the kyber crystals. And
yes,
that they call to their Jedi. We don't have, the problem is in this part of the story, which is sequel trilogy, there aren't really a lot of Jedi who need to build their lightsabers. So they even kind of have to concoct a weird way that you get to do lightsaber training on the cruise because of kind of the weird dynamics of the sequel trilogy, and how they've placed Jedi in the story. And that goes to even to Batuu. When you go to build a lightsaber, if you go to Galaxy's Edge, you have to find the hidden place to build them. It's not out in the open. So that's
right.
Interesting. And one of the things that I noted in listening to the song as she was singing it was that she mentions the word the chosen one.
Yes.
And so I asked Alex Lee about that.
Yes, and we were so thrilled that Lucasfilm allowed us to tell that story and to be upfront, or as subtle as it is if you pick up on it, with these characters and specifically with Gaia. And again, we're so proud of it. It's great that you bring up the concept of the dinner show, because we did want to do something traditionally live entertainment. But what's great about it is that it's all a front for Gaia as you begin to experience her story and see how that unfolds into her nefarious purposes on board the ship, and with the crew that she has, and how all of those stories kind of tie around this underworld guise that she brings on board.
So I think it's cool. And then listening to the lyrics of the story, she's the chosen one is talking about the gemstone as the chosen one. But we all, I mean, you hear chosen one as a Star Wars fan, you're like, bing, 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 bing.
Yeah. And one of the things we're sort of learning through these stories and Gaia talking about her life and the song as she's singing them, even though they're pretty upbeat, is we're getting this image of her struggles, of her people's struggles, of the oppression of the Twi'lek people, and they end up being occupied, and their resources are being stripped. And the stone speaks of, like, in a lot of places, its resources are the why places are occupied. In our own real world, it might be in Africa, it's the gemstones, diamonds, the other type of gems that you can get there. That's a lot of the reasons that they were occupied was for their resources, and not just precious minerals like that for jewelry, but also resources that could be used for power, lumber, stuff like that to be built, food even. So there's all these different ways that they kind of express those ideas of oppression within the Twi'lek story that we're getting with the stone and Gaia's experience and her being out there and isolated. They sort of lighten it up with Uani and Sandro.
Yes, but before we get to that, I want to talk about the storytelling within the music itself. Because particularly in this song, Hayana Nane, it's in a minor key, and it's very much like portrays this sense of longing. There's lots of minor thirds. It's pleading, like it's this whole feeling you get when you hear it, but it's the storytelling within the music itself as well.
Hiya, 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 na 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 na. Hiya, 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 na 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 na. Hiya, 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 na 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 na. Ha na na na, ha na ya, na ya, ha na ya. Hiya, 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 na 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 na.
We don't even know like how these songs actually move our brains to.
Oh yeah.
We
can try to say it, but it's like not the same as just feeling it.
Well, and that's one of the reasons Star Wars works, right? Because John Williams sort of set the tone for some of the things that we experienced from the very first Star Wars. Like, it's not the best computer graphics that we ever saw in A New Hope, but it still works. You can still watch it and you still feel the emotions. And that was what the score was meant to do. And they're again using the language of music, the things that we don't even know that move us to think a certain way, to think, oh, that makes me be longing, that makes me feel sad, that makes me feel anxious, whatever it is. That's the way they're setting it up.
So then, we got to lighten the mood. So talk about Wani and Sandro.
That's like in musical theater too. You have this real heavy thing, and then you have some little side thing that'll sort of, you always have to make sure people laugh, right? So you have to have your jokes, just like in Star Wars. Even when it's really serious, we have to, that's not how the Force works.
Oh, you're cold?
Exactly. You have to have those moments. You have to let the audience laugh, so that, because if they just were always in tension, it would just be really an anxious event the whole time. So Wani and Sandro. Wani is the DJ, I guess, the musician / DJ for Gaia. And she is Rhodian, and they're very color coordinated, the two of them. They're kind of in the same color
palette.
Which is very much a Fangirls Going Rogue color palette, I have to say. We got the purples and the pinks and the blues going on. So Sandro is a traveling musician, guitarist, and he's in there. He's sort of just dropped in on this kind of experience, and Guy is going to let him come play, which I thought was fun.
Yeah, so let's hear this little prelude to Coaxium. Oh, I guess I shouldn't say that name. I should let Sandro say that name.
Now, Sandro, this next song is one of your favorites, I believe.
Yeah, I hope so.
Do you want to tell us what it's about?
Coaxium?
Short and sweet. But what is coaxium? Who can tell the class?
Oh, I know. It's hyperfuel.
Fuel, that's right. You're showing off a little bit, but I like that. It is fuel, but it is so much more. Coaxium is power. You and your friends like to hoard that sort of power, don't you, Lieutenant? That leaves me and my friends, and I'm sure I can find a few more here. Oh, yeah. Free to harness the power. The power that can take you everywhere and get you anywhere. The power of coaxium.
Okay, I loved this prelude as they talk about coaxium as power, and I got to participate. I was little Hermione Granger. I know the answer.
Yes, Sarah. Yes, there has to be somebody who knows the answer.
She even called me out on that. You're showing off a little bit. That was hilarious. Oh my gosh. But I think this song is really cool because, you know, they talk about coaxium, and if you take in what they're saying, coaxium is power. So it really sets the stakes of what you're going to do on day 2 in Batuu. And that all rhymed.
And as we're talking about this and we looked at kind of that story structure, it's also setting up one of the other paths. You can have the stone path with the heist, or you could have the coaxium smuggling.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah. So we're setting up, you know, the songs are setting up the little bits of information. So I almost feel like the little introduction that you just played of what coaxium is and coaxium is power is more important than the song itself.
Yeah.
But you won't, like, if you don't know coaxium, if you're, you know, because they talk about not everybody's going to come in knowing all the terms. If you watched the Solo movie, you know what coaxium is, or maybe you forgot already. But if you've gone on Smuggler's Run in Batuu, then you've experienced coaxium. And if you haven't gone on it, then once you get on Smuggler's Run, you're going to be like, I know what that stuff is that Hondo's trying to get, those little containers that we're excited if we get one and really excited if we get 2 containers going on. So yeah, it's interesting because the song's like this really upbeat song, but it's talking about literally like the power dynamics of the galaxy. Like if you have coaxium, you have power. And ultimately, coaxium is one of the things that becomes really important to this story of the star of the Halcyon that you're on for 2 days.
Right. And then after this upbeat song, we got to slow it on down for the poverty of love.
But the flavors of the night slowly begin to fade. I'm longing for a real connection. The city blues colors every mood and I can't escape the loneliness in my eyes. Way above the stars, I see the world in all its splendor, but my heart was bruised and tender. The poverty of now, the poverty of now keeps me aching through the night. I'm tired of the now, I'm longing to be touched by something everlasting.
So Trisha, do you want to talk about this? Because is this your favorite? I'm just curious.
This is one of my favorites. And, I was really picking up from the performance more that this was really true to Gaia. And then talking to Alex Lee, I guess I was really spot on.
And so much messaging between the Hyananea song and the Coaxium song, which is a bit more overt, and Poverty of Love, which is a very subtle musical theater moment in regards to her emotions. So all of us who come from live theater and the musical theater world really created the book for Gaia around a full arc that we could tell in that 30-minute set, and then was able to kind of look at how we were able to deliver on each of those story points over the course of the 2 days.
So it was just, I mean, it's cool that, he's saying this is that song in theater where they sort of express the emotions of the character. And, she's longing to be connected, to have people connect with her. And you would think, being someone who's this pop star, people want to be around you for one reason. And
Right.
you don't know if they want to be around you just to be around you. And then there's the whole other level of, I'm a Twi'lek. I'm not of first, particularly like the First Order, and during the Empire, there was really sort of like this humans were superior in their viewpoint. And so she's not only not connected just because she's a pop star, she's also disconnected because she feels like not everybody wants to be around her just because she's a person. Just the name, Poverty of Love, to me, it makes you think like love. It's the poverty of people loving you and adoring you as a pop star, but makes you poor in just the regular connections of being a person. That's one way you could think of it.
No, that makes sense. And I mean, one of the last lines of the song is, "They scream my name in the stadium, but see me up close as an alien." So she's not like, people don't see her as a person. They see her as a pop star and treat her like one. But when it comes to that real connection, like you're talking about, yeah, she's missing that in her life.
And if not for being a pop star, she probably wouldn't be able to move around the places that she would like to necessarily. But, because of who she is, and that mapping over to real world situations where, because I'm a woman, because I'm a Black woman, because, I'm, LGBTQ, you aren't being able to move around in circles the same way as somebody else. So there's all these like little layers to that song, especially when we think about that Black women wrote and put together this dinner show. You can just see how all those things like play into the story, as far as it's really expressing a real world longing.
Or longing. Yeah, that's a good word. I want to talk about, like, when I was there in the dinner theater experiencing this, luckily we had a seat right up front where she's singing, and she was at the mic for this whole song. It's like when your Beyonce sings a power ballad or something, right? She like stands at the mic, one spot, doesn't move. And so when she got to the point where she's speaking in another language and she's pouring all that longing and desire and wishes into this moment where she's just speaking, like I got chills in the room. And I remember that. And I was like, oh, this sounds like, because we're here at the Galactic Starcruiser, it sounds like she was delivering a message to someone, like through the song itself. And I thought that was so cool. And let's just listen to it.
Me con conato, nai waba, an mama nodia boboba nupatlik. Me novo manta me, godalik. La otra vida lumo en maderbo, na hotza lumo en matuma, mas songo es ni pushke.
So yeah, so much emotional longing there. Like you can just feel it through her voice.
And it also setting up later on where we get another song that's not in basic, as they call it.
Yeah, that's right.
English, we call it when it's not in basic. So it's the first time we hear, a different language set up, and that's gonna happen again later on in the story. So that's sort of like, your call response. So it's setting up something that's going to happen later on. And then I love the sort of transition into the rock star queen conversation with Croy. And again, I guess this is really where I felt like, okay, yeah, I think she's toying with him a little bit here.
What is your definition of royalty? A general, perhaps?
Hmm.
And how out of reach is that rank for, say, a lieutenant?
A bit more at present than will be after this mission.
Good for you, Lieutenant. I myself have risen through the ranks, you might say.
And what ranks might those be?
The invisible. I've risen to become my own version of royalty. You might say that I am.
The Rockstar Queen.
And I'm about to hold court.
Woo! Yeah!
So Rockstar Queen, this is where when I watched your video that I really realized that things were happening in this song that I didn't realize were happening in this song. And so part of the song sort of reminds me of like YMCA or Dancing Queen, where you're supposed to get up and like groove to it. And, there's a dance, there's a way that everybody's supposed to move together, which is really interesting because part of the whole message of the cruise itself is sort of uniting behind a purpose. And so this is the first time where they sort of encourage everybody just to get up and sort of like go with it.
I have a question for you because earlier on in the atrium, like kind of during the afternoon, there was, I forget what it's called on the schedule, but there was a scheduled event that you could attend that was like a dancing thing. And did you attend this at all?
No.
No. Okay. So this is where we learned the dance that we do in this dinner show.
Oh, okay.
So I thought that was so cool. Like everything has a purpose on this ship. Like even though it was just meant for, it looked like a kid thing, like, oh, learn the little dance in the atrium. But if you went and you learned it, you knew what to do when she started singing Rockstar Queen.
Well, yeah. And that's like even the droid races is really a distraction. They use the droids as a distraction in that. So it's not just droid races. It's, something. So during the song, this is when Chewbacca is in the dining room at the back, which is where I was. And you can see it on the video. And up in the front, not only are they teaching everybody, they're all spreading out trying to teach us. I realized watching this video that Wraith and Gaia are dancing with Croy, which it's just worth the video just to watch him do
trying to dance.
He's like 3PO in human form, first order, trying to move, and Wraith is like got grooving and Gaia's grooving. Obviously, we know that. And he's trying.
It was so funny. And I had moved right up front. I was like front and center getting this amazing footage. I'm like, oh my God. This is when I fell in love with Croy.
She has a dual crush. She has a Croy crush and a Sammy crush going on. So,
but now you realized though, while watching this video, that they're distracting Lieutenant Croy.
Yeah.
Right? From what you're seeing in the back. So describe what you saw.
So Chewbacca's kind of in the back corner. He's trying to hide. There were a bunch of little kids who picked on Chewbacca, which, they do. The kids, Chewbacca's like a kid magnet. And he's there and trying to hide. And what I realized from the video is that Croy congratulates somebody in the audience turns Chewbacca in. And I think that if it doesn't happen, the story's going to move along. But if somebody points it out, then obviously the stormtrooper is going to move in a little sooner. So they take Chewbacca hostage. So we have this whole song about, I'm a rock star queen and you're bopping out. Then it's Chewbacca's gone and Chewbacca's getting arrested.
Oh, but if you're into the rom-com a part of this, Sandro at one point at the very end of the song takes Wani by the hand and they dance a little bit. So I thought that was cute. Yeah, they dance a little jig in the middle, like holding hands. It's so cute. So I bet Sandro was very excited about that.
He was. I'm sure he was.
And then after Chewie's taken out, we get to an encore. And this is Ula Shuka, which is sung in Huttese. It's like all Huttese. And then here, explain, because it looks like you want to talk about this.
Well, no, I just didn't realize that this was on the Oga's Cantina set list until after it sounded really familiar when we heard it, but I was like, oh, okay, that's why I've heard it before.
Yeah, so this has been in Oga's Cantina since the beginning of Galaxy's Edge, which is awesome. That's so cool. And Judith Hill, right? Does she sing it or did she write it or both?
I think both.
Okay. And she was also in D20, I want to say it's D23 Expo or Star Wars Celebration singing this song live. So I've heard it live. I think it was D23 Expo.
Yeah, and Ula, again, back to Ula, is the character in Return of the Jedi who's in Jabba's palace who ends up getting dropped into the Rancor pit. So she's the first Twi'lek that really is known to Star Wars fans. And Croy, so it's Ula Shuka. It sounds like a bop. We don't know what they're saying. Go back to mentioning that pop singers a lot of times will bring their messages and their voices, and sometimes the song will be boppy, but it's maybe representing something that doesn't quite mean what you think it is. Like Born in the USA by Bruce Springsteen. A lot of people think that's like, oh, like made in the USA, but really he's talking about the struggles of people in America. And so it's not as, people think it's like this anthem of we're a great country. And he's really talking more about something else in that song if you listen to the lyrics. So I would be really curious what the translation is of Ula Shuka, because Croy says before she does the song that it's inflammatory language and not preferred by the First Order.
Mm-hmm. And he leaves before she sings.
Yes.
So he's like just dissed Gaia.
So I was like, what are they saying in this song? Now I know some super fan will translate it someday.
I hope so. But a lot of it is Barshuka. Barshuka. So who knows? But I found it interesting that right before this song, Wraith Cole announces that Gaia the next afternoon will have an acoustic show. She will deign to do an acoustic show in the atrium, not her usual live performance. And I love that she says this.
But you know what? You can still have power even when you're unfloat.
And it is like this really, cool way that we realized maybe that her mission didn't work and she didn't get what she wanted yet. Not that it didn't work, that she hasn't achieved what she wanted yet. And she needs to stay a little longer, because it feels to me like Wraith came in and he's like, well, some either it's not Chewbacca, because she wouldn't need to stay for Chewbacca because of how things play out. But whatever her purpose is, we don't know. And as this is happening, but
she wants to get the gem.
Well, but she hasn't achieved that end yet. So she needs to have a reason to stay. So she's like, I'm gonna give you guys a second performance, the Backstreet Boys are coming back out for an acoustic set.
I love that. All right. Wow. And then we get to the final beat. Now, we do have to mention that this whole video can be found on the Skywalking Through Neverland YouTube channel. It's the Gaia show, and you'll see it. It's got a couple thousand views on there, and a lot of comments. A lot of interesting comments on that video. Now, okay, so actually what's interesting, at the very end of the video, Richard was taking video of Gaia from actually behind the post. So like no one else was up there. He was behind the post on the stage. And so no one else was up there. And even at that point, at the very end of the video, you'll see Sandro take aside Wani and start to talk with her but really for Richard's eyes only, because he was the only one there at that point.
Well, interestingly, I followed everything happens after that. If you had learned earlier in the day that you could get the code to the brig on the little data pad down outside the dining room by the elevators, the kids had already figured that out. And I don't remember what they're called, the Jedi-like characters are helping them get the code in to break Chewie out. Chewie can't still be on the ship because he needs to be down on the planet Batu the next day. So the kids are helping break him out. I stopped for a minute to watch that, and they got him out pretty quickly. And then I followed Sandro up, and he started talking to some ladies and myself in the sublight lounge. He went in to try to talk to Wani again, and he got distracted and started talking to the rest of us, and Wani got frustrated and walked out. And then he's like, I wanted to tell her I liked her. So I have like 4 or 5 minutes of him talking to us, I don't even know these other ladies. And we're like, you just got to say it. You just got to say it. And that
gotta tell her you love her, tell her you care. Okay.
Disenchanted's coming soon.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, I'm so excited. But yeah, so there's all those little ways. Later the next day he wrote a song for her, and I was sitting there when he was writing the song, and this little kid's like, you can't just say that she's beautiful. You have to say she's like as beautiful inside as the vastness of the brightest star in the galaxy. And I remember the mom of the little kid was like, what, that came out of my kid, like, just so that's part of all the little like things that happen there. And then you're just like, okay, so the end of the dinner show, and then going up and kind of, I think they're trying in the dinner show that first night to really engage us in the universe. And then if you're really engaged, you could go up and then even more so interact. You could help Chewie escape if you're engaged in that story. You could follow the rom-com that's happening and go into the sublight lounge and talk to Sandro if that's what interests you. Or and
then Sammy's having like this existential crisis, like like, oh, I told Croy he thinks I'm on his side, so I need to like be part of I need to do what he says, but I'm conflicted, like he's having this whole crisis moment.
Yeah, I think in the dinner show, isn't that he says Sammy's turned over
Sammy turned over Chewie.
So
or he takes him to the brig.
Yeah, so he's having, and that's part of the journey too, is how Sammy's story unfolds in the way that he learns to resist. Because
exactly,
it's not, people aren't going to always fight things. So when you see things happen, not everybody is wired to be disruptive or to say, no, you shouldn't do that. A lot of times things happen and you're like, well, I'm just gonna kind of go with the flow because we're uncomfortable or we don't know how to engage in those type of situations. So that's kind of the Sammy character, is that person. We learn through Sammy how to engage and to stand up for ourselves.
Definitely. I think that's also why I was drawn to him, because I tend to be a go with the flow person until you push me just the right way. Wow. Well, this dinner show is so cool. Go ahead.
It is. And then, the second night, you go on your adventure in Batu, you could do some things on the ship. And then the second night dinner is the way that they start bringing everything together and get us into that, like wrapping up and kind of getting us into the climax of what the stakes are for everybody on the ship. And I really liked just the approach they took to that second night dinner. It was sort of like a global tour. It was global food inspired, right, but it was supposed to be like a
galactic tour of the galaxy, right? Yes. Galactic tour of the galaxy. That's redundant, but yes, you know what I mean. Which leads directly into the final act of the Starcruiser. But before we get into that, I want to bring it back to Alex and what you talked to him about, how not only do we have these amazing characters with actors, but everyone on this ship, the food services team, the passenger services, like they are all involved in the storytelling. So let's listen to Alex talk about that.
And down to how we block our foods team and where they're standing, how we pace a meal is all built down to the minute. Where they stand, how they flow, and how they pace their service.
So even the food service is part of the theater.
They are. They actually were great in wanting to learn and understand as much of the story. And I think you see that in the 45 hours of story that we've created, you're not just getting story delivered from the characters, but from passenger service as well. They're always reacting to the story. They're always delivering more on the story. And that was a huge accomplishment that entertainment and other lines of business were able to bring to this in a way that we haven't really been able to do in other traditional live entertainment experiences where you have a fourth wall. So to be able to make even storytelling accessible was something that we're deeply proud of and glad that you experienced.
So yes, the food service team was definitely plugged in to the story because literally as I took my last bite of dessert, that's when the alarm went off to gather at muster. Like I had just finished the last crumb.
And it was funny because I kept thinking like during the day, wow, that alarm hasn't gone off. That alarm hasn't gone off. And then you're going through this, experience where they're like spraying this aroma and you're getting this like calming aroma and this nice food and
Yogan fruit.
Yep. You're getting really like relaxed and you're on your cruise. And then, things happen during that show.
Yeah.
That there's definitely the theater element of it, not just with the presentation of the food, but with the captain and with Croy and sort of setting up, standing up for yourself. And, the captain, she's the one who really kind of like fires you up. Gaia has this way of like, she's like bringing you into the adventure, but the captain is the one who's really sort of setting the tone of this is what's going to happen on my ship type of experience.
I feel like Lenka also has that. She has a gift for really making you feel the emotions of the journey. I feel like she did that a lot. She has these incredible speeches. Like you and I both experienced her in the electric room. What is that called?
Engineering room.
The engineering room at different points. But she both gave impassioned speeches at both times that were like, wow.
I was almost crying.
Yeah, I bet you were. No, I think I was too. Like when I saw your video of yours, I was like, oh my God.
And that was, those little moments. Again, that was that engineering room experience was about teaching you about teamwork because you couldn't accomplish any of the things in engineering without working together with somebody else to figure out the puzzle of we all have to push the buttons together. You can't, there's no way.
Same with the bridge.
Could stand in one place and push all the buttons that need to be pushed. You had to get somebody to work with you, which is ultimately what we need to do at the end of the story. We all have to stand up to the First Order.
Yeah.
At the end. Well, not everybody does, but
enough.
Enough of us do. But that was like the thing that freaked me out. It's like all of a sudden we're like, or you're eating this nice meal, you've seen the experience, and then all of a sudden it's like you got to get going, you got to get up to muster station, back to that muster station thing that we first talked about, your first theatrical event, to get up there and see now the galactic level stakes of this adventure, which is Rey, Kylo saving the droid, freeing the ship, and all those other things. I would say that even though we know we're in Star Wars, we know we're in the galaxy far, far away. That's when I felt like they sort of engaged at the movie theater kind of idea, that people think of as Star Wars, is we want to see a lightsaber battle and we want to see
the Force being used, right?
Exactly. And they did it in really cool ways in that room. Some of it was kind of, sleight of hand type of stuff.
Yeah.
But
if you know what to look for, but yes.
But we still all go to magic shows. So, I mean,
absolutely.
I'll go to magic shows just because part of it's fun trying to figure out what the trick is. But part of it's just kind of go, wow, you still stumped me. I don't know how you did that.
Mm-hmm. Also, I want to say in that final climax, there is a complete Phantom of the Opera moment when, what is it? I think it's Kylo who makes the whole, it's not a chandelier, but it's part of the Starcruiser atrium falls from the ceiling. And it just falls part way, but like that's the Phantom of the Opera moment because the chandelier falls in Phantom of the Opera at the end of the first act, I think, like phew, bam, and it's like down for the rest of the show. And it was down the next morning on the Galactic Starcruiser.
And then somebody has to remember to put it back up.
Yes, they
and
do.
Reset it. And
that's what they do between 11 a.m. and 1 p.m.
Yeah, that's not very long.
No.
And you did, since you, as a passenger, you went on the Rise of the Resistance ride. So you have been introduced to, the villainous Kylo Ren, who's going to come and fight Rey. Rey's been on the ship and kind of, there've been little things going on with her through the afternoon. And
that's right.
Then she comes and does this battle. The couple of the sleight of hand things are, she uses the real lightsaber that they've made a big to do about. And then she, drops down to her knees and comes back up with one that she can actually fight
and
with.
that's when the ceiling's falling.
Yes.
As a distraction.
So it's all, there's all these things happening. Some people weren't as in the know on what was happening with the holocron, but that comes into play in the story, in that last theater event that we have happening. So we get the holocron getting drawn. There's that moment wherein Rey gets pulled by the Force by Kylo.
That is so cool. You can hear like everyone gasp when that happens. You're like, whoa.
and then you have the Yoda moment, which is set up in lightsaber training. So there's, I mean, we're talking about the big staged events, but even there's all these little, what I'd call like medium-sized staged events, which is like the bridge ops training and the engineering room stuff, the lightsaber training that get you set up for things that happen the second day, and all, even the phrases you learn when you're in lightsaber training. I can't remember what.
Yes.
What's the phrase you learned?
Oh gosh.
And everybody yelled it back during.
Yeah, they did, and now I don't remember. Oh, I'm sad.
Oh, that's it. But all those little things, like they all build up. I know you got to do more things, little things with Sammy. I think. Yes. Did you do your bridge ops training with Sammy?
Yeah, he was definitely in there.
See, I did mine with Wraith.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, I hardly saw Wraith at all.
Really?
Yeah. Only at the very beginning.
That's just so weird how people like have just like totally different experience. And, at the end, we all had the same experiences that, Kylo is defeated. Rey is able to make her escape. We all learn a little bit about resisting or not resisting. The ones who chose the ones who chose the First Order lost. Gaia got off with her gem. The coaxium is going to the right place. So all these little things that we learned about. That's why I think Gaia show is so important, because it's setting all these little things into motion, particularly that, unifying people together.
Yeah. I think that's so cool. Like there's so much in that Gaia show. Like just us talking about it today, I got more out of it. The fact that the 2 or 3 storylines are set up there. Like I think that's so cool. And it just proves that like every piece of this Galactic Starcruiser has been thought about, has been crafted, has been really, it's like a whole bunch of puzzle pieces that are 3D puzzle pieces that have been intricately like worked together and structured so that everything just fits. It's fantastic.
It is. I mean, Alex mentioned that they had been working on this for like 7 months and workshopping. So if you have any like experience with theater, or you know about the theater world, and this is just theater and musical theater, but more so musical theater is because you're ending up with the choreography and how are you going to move people around to create the energy that you want, or to evoke the emotion you want, or the mood you want. That doesn't happen automatically when you're choreographing stuff or being choreographed. I've done musical theater, I've choreographed musical theater. Depending on what you're trying to set up and do, it might take a few tries. And sometimes the tries are letting the performers try something and letting them shape. I mean, for me, that my biggest growth as a choreographer was doing hair, which was so out of my league. Like my training had all been very classical, ballet, jazz. I had done dance team. I had captained the dance team. That's about everybody staying in sync. Nobody's out of sync. Everything's very rigid. Everybody has to do everything at the same time. And then when I got asked to do hair, that's not what's happening. You know, there's like 2 times where everybody was in sync, and that was supposed to represent like the military. And then everything else is about everybody just finding their place. So, you know, in the workshopping, I imagine a lot of the magic happened. They had to figure out how to boom, boom, how do I get to here? Boom, how do we get to there? Type stuff.
I do have actually a note on that, and I do know that the performers did have a hand in writing their story. So Sammy, his name is Sage Starkey. He hosts a podcast called World of Diz Talk, and that's DISTOK, like TikTok. And he and 3 other Disney cast members actually do this podcast, and he had one episode out that talked about his Galactic Starcruiser. Like, it had finally, you know, the embargo had gone out, so he was able to talk about what he could talk about, even as a cast member. But he did mention that he got to write some of the story line. He talked about the cruise that we were on, and how all the cameras, like, you know, you're supposed to connect as a performer with people, and all of a sudden there's all these cameras. Like, who do you connect with, you know? Like, but it's really interesting to listen to this episode and how he really felt like he had put so much of himself into this character. He kind of felt very raw when everyone was filming, because he, you know, it was like himself on display.
Sure.
But yeah, so it's really cool how they really got to use their experiences, or at least their emotions, as a guide for how
I'd
this
be
played
curious
out.
too, because there's multiple Sammys. There's
Yes.
multiple versions of the characters. Like, was it like one of them workshopping it, and then
that I don't know.
And you know, it was interesting when there was a lot of like bad energy around some in some places, you know, that people just wanted to hate grift on the experience before it came out.
Right.
And I mean, in some ways, Star Wars has struggled because it hasn't always delivered on what it said it would, and particularly didn't deliver on what it said it would for Galaxy's Edge, because some of the things they talked about that they said were going to happen in Galaxy's Edge happened on Starcruiser, like the things that you get to see,
like everything.
Right. So everything. So what they figured out was it caught, like, the idea was really great, but it was going to cost more. So they segmented that. So there was already this sort of like, people were like, well, you know, you said you were going to deliver something for Galaxy's Edge. We're not trustful. But then again, those people would pick up on things and they would take them as a bad sign. They're like, oh, they're already having to hire a second round of cast. And I'm like, looking back on it, I probably think that there was one cast that workshopped it, that, you know, you're not going to have multiple people workshopping a story. And then they added their second cast that came, you know, they come in and they study with the person who originated the character. They learn the role. They might twist it a little bit different for their team, but pretty much it's going to be the same, because those actors may have to rotate into a unit that they're not normally in, because that may just happen the way it works out.
Yeah, and there's no way one cast could do this over and over and over. Like just me being a performer, like one hour show takes so much out of you, your energy. So like I just major props to these who can keep that energy up for 2 full 8, 9, 10-hour days.
Well, and I was thinking, it's bad that like you're supposed to be like in the moment, but I'm in the moment. And at one point I'm doing the math. I'm like, okay, so Gaia probably takes her a couple hours to get the makeup on. And she was out working, individuals and performing for about 8 hours, and then to get out of it. And if you, it's going to be draining, just the energy for, she was dancing and moving around. I think you even offered her a sip of, the drink of water.
No, she had a drink. Right there. She was like taking a drink in the middle of the dinner show, right by my table.
And then you gotta wind down from that. The energy doesn't just like, you're physically tired, but your brain's not going to come down out of a performance when you do that. So, and then they gotta do it again the next day. So, and then I think it seems like probably the other cast rotates in. I would think just the timing of it. But just kind of all that. Yeah, I have like mad respect for those, and you have to work into that endurance. Like you work and work and work, and even performance endurance. The first couple of times you do a show, you're not where you would like to be. You're huffing and puffing, and it takes about a week to get into where you're like, okay, I can do this and not die.
Right. And part of it is comfort level too. If you're doing a new character, every moment is like, oh my gosh, what do I do? And and they had tons of improv training as well, which they need, because every moment you're dealing with things that, that's different every time.
And I would say to people who say, should I do this experience? Is it worth the money? Obviously everybody's worth what something's worth. There are people who are going to 2 BTS concerts in the next month, and that's like thousands and thousands of dollars to, travel and get the tickets and do all that stuff. So, would I do that? No. But what what we experienced is a one of a kind. There's nothing like this in the world. An immersive story, this kind of theater production that we're talking about. They put there's a lot of money that went into, it's not just what it costs to operate it now, it's what it costs to develop it.
Yeah. For 6 years. And what it costs to pay all the actors and performers to workshop this for 6-7 months as well.
Exactly.
And everything. Wow. Yeah. It was amazing.
All right.
I know. Woo. Well, we hope you guys liked that. Now, looking ahead, though, Star Wars Celebration is coming up. Are you pumped?
I'm getting excited because we got a lot of announcements here. We know that Thursday we're meeting filmmakers and Andor and the Mandalorian and Kenobi stuff. And we know that Saturday it is the Mandalorian, Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni thing. We don't know what's on Friday. We might. I'm crossing my fingers for Attack of the Clones reunion on Friday. That would be really cool. Sunday, I think, is the Bad Batch.
Oh, good. Okay.
So we're getting things that we know that's going on. So that's kind of exciting.
Yes. And so, Trisha, you and I are going to be there. So we want to let everyone know where you can meet us. So on Star Wars Celebration Eve, which is May 25th, there is a special night happening. It's called Bunta Eve Cantina and Richard and my book launch today in Star Wars history. And this is going to happen at Big's Bar in Fullerton. It's a huge, free, family-friendly event until 8 p.m. And then from 8 p.m. on till midnight, it's a 21 plus. And the whole thing will be podcasting, singing. There's going to be an Alderaan Idol type karaoke contest, celebrity signings, book signings as well, and live podcasting. And you can check out our Facebook event for the details of that. There's going to be special drinks too, like specialty
fun.
drinks. I know, like I'm so excited. There's like a Baby Yoda drink. There's all kinds of fun stuff. And then at Star Wars Celebration itself, this time I'm going to be like really busy. So Trisha, I did not take your advice from the last couple. I think Orlando, you had like a couple panels at one point. Well, this time, yeah, I'm going to be on four panels. So Richard and I are hosting 2 panels. One is celebrating the Ewok Adventures with Eric Walker and Kevin Thompson, who worked on the Ewok Adventure movies. And also another panel is called Fandom Through the Generations, with guests Craig Miller of Lucasfilm Publicity back in the 70s and 80s, and Dan Madsen. And there may be a surprise guest or two, depending on scheduling. And then Richard and I did put in for the podcast stage, which we did get, and we were kind of surprised because we're doing all these panels. But however, because we have now started the Skywalking network of podcasts, this will be a variety show, and it'll give each of the Skywalking network podcasts a spot to showcase and possibly some musical numbers as well. So it's like the Gaia dinner show, but podcasting.
There you go. And since the whole team was not going to be there, we did not opt to do a podcast stage. And because in some part, Trisha just wanted to do a convention and just be a fan. I remember last time I was in Anaheim, that might be why I have about it, was when it was Ultimate.
You would have done a book launch yourself.
Yeah, book launch. Yeah. And we did the podcast stage. I think when we podcast,
there was a Rebels panel.
You guys had to run to the red carpet in the middle. You and Richard did for us. And I think after that, I had to run. I did a panel, and then I had to run and get changed into my good clothes to do the book launch party in the Hilton. And I remember because BJ and Kay from Fangirl Blog were like, they had my clothes and my books and my thing, and I was going to, be signing with Anthony Daniels. And it ended up, we were supposed to only sign for an hour, but I think we signed, it was cool.
Wasn't it like 2.5 hours or something?
It was something like that, insane. And they just kept bringing, they're like, would you like drink? And I'm thinking, I don't need another drink. But if I'm going to keep signing, we just kept signing and signing. And it was one of those things that was so much fun, but my hand was so tired and I met so many people and I was just like, okay, done.
Yeah. So this time we're taking your place. So you just chill.
Yeah, exactly. I'm gonna chill. And so you will find me in the, if you want to say hello, you'll find me in the Hilton Anaheim bar. And that's where I'll be in the evenings. And we will both be at Star Wars Night at Disneyland on May 27th.
That's the Friday. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's going to be fun.
But we'll definitely be I'll be doing social media stuff too. So I will be doing that. So you can see if you're not there, because I know a lot of our listeners are not going this time, which was another reason that it just felt like it wasn't going to be the same, because so many people we know were not opting to come. We will, be covering stuff on social media. So, and if you do want to interact with us, we have been interacting with listeners on Saturday nights, our Fangirls Going Rogue Zoom discussion hosted by Sandra Shute. And that is ongoing again. We started back up with Moon Knight, and we did talk about the Kenobi trailer. And that's 8 p.m. Eastern time, 5 p.m. Pacific time on Saturday nights, as long as there is a Marvel or a Star Wars show going on. And you can just check out our Facebook group or the website, go to the events page, and you can get more information on that Zoom meetup. You just get the link, you click it, you join, and you have a conversation. If you come on 1 week, you can come. If you come for 30 minutes, you can come. It's just really a fun discussion.
If you're making dinner, you can come. I do
That's
that
right.
a lot. All right. Well, we have reached the end of another episode, so you can visit us over at fangirlsgoingrogue.com. We are also at FG Going Rogue on Twitter and Instagram. Trisha is at Fangirl Cantina. Teresa is at Ice Cold Penguin. I am at Jedi Tink. Sandra is at Geek Chic 9. And Kai is at Yogi Kai.
And you can leave us a voicemail, 331-21-EWOKS or 331-213-9657. You can send us an email, contact@fangirlsgoingrogue.com.
And on Facebook, we are Fangirls Going Rogue, so just search Facebook for that. You can also join our Facebook group, but make sure you answer the questions that pop up, or we cannot let you in.
And please go to Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to podcasts and leave a positive 5-star review. We need your reviews so more people can find us.
So, until next time, da-da-da-da-da, Tabuite!
Yep.
That's the toast. Tabuite!
Tabuite!
There we go. It'll work. That was cute.
That was funny. I was like, yub, that was my stalled yub.
Yes.
Yub, yub.